before I get started, let me say thank you first for having me here. Give thanks to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for waking me up this morning and giving me all the good things that I have in my life. And thank my campaign staff and just everybody out there who support me. Thank you very much. I want to jump directly to something being just mentioned. The sanctuary counties for our Second Amendment. First off, it's a shame that we have to do that. All right? But here's the bigger shame. That we have some folks right here in our own party that don't think that that's necessary. A lot of them will give this excuse and say, well, what good is it going to do? It's just a resolution. Doesn't have any legislation behind it. Doesn't have any teeth. There's no law in it that's making anybody abide by anything. Here's what you need to remind those people of when you present that resolution. Back in 1775, there was another resolution. 1776, there was another resolution passed in this country. Didn't have any legislation behind it. Didn't have any teeth behind it. The only thing it had behind it was the will of the men who wrote it and the patriots who would go on to found this nation. And it was called the Declaration of Independence. And basically all it did was put the Great Britain on notice and let them know that the American people were free. And we intended to stay free. If they were going to make us their subjects again, they were going to have to fight us.
Amen.
That's exactly what we need to remind these folks. And that's what these resolutions do. They put our state and federal government on notice that we as a people will not have our Second Amendment rights stripped away from us. You talk about getting people out to vote and getting people energized. I don't think there's any better way for us to get our base energized than for our elected officials like this man here, to stand up in those chambers and make those kind of declarations, to make sure that you know that he's on your side, not on the side of these leftists out here that want to strip away our rights. So when you go in that hall, you remind them about that Declaration of Independence and the statement that it made. We need to make the same kind of statement today. So, I know you all know me and probably know what my campaign platform is. You probably know what I'm running on. Guys, I'm running on a lot of things that Ben believes in. I'm running on the sanctity of human life. Right now in this nation, the biggest social issue that we're facing in this nation is standing up for the lives of the unborn. I'm number 9 of 10 children, born into an extremely poor family. If Margaret Sanger and her crowd could have counseled my mom, they would have told her to abort me. I would have missed out on everything that God had planned for me in my life. Now you multiply my story by some 42 million babies who were aborted around the globe last year. Folks, we need to purge abortion from this state and from this nation. We need to get rid of abortion for the cause of life the same way we got rid of slavery for the cause of liberty. We need to make sure that we're unashamed in doing it and stand up proudly when we do. So standing up for the lives of the unborn, that's something I know that Ben is close to his heart, it's close to all our hearts. We have to stand up and make sure that we fight for that. And then there's the Second Amendment. We just talked about that, folks. We just talked about Second Amendment. Guys, if we lose that Second Amendment, we might as well go ahead and throw the Constitution in the trash can. The Constitution is useless without the Second Amendment. Your freedom is gone without the Second Amendment. Our founding fathers knew that governments that have all the guns and all the power always become despotic. And they put that Second Amendment in our Constitution not so we could go duck hunting or deer hunting or skeet shooting. They put it in our Constitution so that free men and women could protect themselves from our government should that government become tyrannical. That's the only reason it's in that Constitution. Our elected officials need to start speaking that up loud and proud and letting folks know that. Putting this government on notice. Putting those guys up there in Virginia on notice. Putting all these elected officials on notice. So protecting that Second Amendment. And then, of course, there's education. Ben mentioned his children being in public schools. Folks, when it comes to education, it's simple. The main thing we need to do in education is stop indoctrinating our children. We have got to get back in the business of education over indoctrination. Right now, we are teaching our children what to think instead of how to think. And it is ruining their lives. It is not setting them up to be successful in their lives after they get out of school. We got elementary school children learning about gender fluidity. teaching them about gender and race issues most of us don't even fully understand. Folks, we got to get these kids back to the basics of education, reading, writing, arithmetic. Then after that, history, civics, home economics, home finances. We got to start teaching them how to buy a home, how to operate credit. You know, the problem with a lot of things that we see right now with young people not being as financially stable as their parents were, a lot of the problem is this. In schools, we used to teach our children how to operate in a free market capitalist system, which is what we are. Now, we're demonizing that free market and that capitalism. And these children get out of school, even college, they get out of college, and they don't know how to operate in our system. Not knowing how to operate, they're failing to a large extent, and it's causing them to turn on the system. We need to start teaching them how to succeed, and it starts at the very lowest grades. We're giving them that solid base of reading, writing, and mathematics so they can move on and matriculate through the rest of their education and learn how to be solid citizens inside this constitutional republic, not this democracy, constitutional republic, and learn how to be successful in the free market under this capitalist system. That's what we need to be doing in education. Now, on the other side of that, folks, we talk about our veterans, and that's the problem. We talk about our veterans in this state. We're not doing for our veterans in this state. We got to change that. Right. North Carolina has got to get off its butt and get it done and make our veterans care the gold standard in this nation. The time for talk is over. Those guys didn't go to Iraq and Afghanistan and talk. They didn't go to Desert Storm and talk. They didn't go to Vietnam and talk. They didn't go to World War II and Korea and all those wars. They didn't talk. They did. They put some actions behind the words and that pledge they took when they signed up. They put some action behind it. They made some sacrifices. It's time for our legislators to start making some sacrifices to them now. There's no reason why a man that needs a man who desperately needs care for wounds he's received in combat, serving this country, should have to get in his own vehicle and drive 100 miles to go find that care. That's a shame. That is a shame. We got to set a course of making sure that we get that change. And then finally, folks, we got to stand up for law enforcement in this state. Any of y'all been watching TV, you know for the last decade, what's been happening? We got the leftist media and the social justice warriors preaching these false narratives and telling these lies, calling our police officers racist, inflating these numbers on police brutality. You know, it's odd to me that people live in neighborhoods where drugs and prostitution and even human trafficking is prevalent. But we don't ever see anybody out there in those neighborhoods with these things out recording the drug dealer, recording the human trafficker, recording the gang members. Let the police pull up to try to stop the gang members, try to stop the human traffickers, try to stop the drug dealers. And some social justice warrior will stick a camera in his face and say, you know, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get your badge. I'm going to get you fired. Those police officers feel beleaguered and afraid. Here's why. Because elected officials are too cowardly to have their back when time comes to it. We got to start putting people in office that are not afraid of these social justice warriors who are preaching these false narratives. I'm going to make this plain to you, folks. We need some elected officials that will stand up in those county chambers and city chambers and tell those folks, you can come in here with your lies all you want to and tell them straight to their face. You can take your lies and you can go straight to hell because we're going to stand up behind these law enforcement officers and we're going to stand behind law and order because it's high time for us to put some law and order back on the street. I talked to a professor, this criminal justice professor, who told me, actually crime's going down. It's actually going down. So your argument's not valid. I said, of course crime's going down. On paper. You see, she was a prime example of the difference between education and wisdom. Education will tell you how to plant a seed, but only wisdom can tell you how to nurture it. That's right. Education can tell you that crime is going down on paper, but only wisdom can tell you why it's really going down. It's going down because our police officers are sitting in their vehicles, literally afraid to fight crime because they have no backup from the people they need it from the most. Folks, we have it within our power to change that. And the way we do it is by putting elected officials in office who have the courage to stand up for those men and women. I know Ben's one of them. I know I'm one of them. And there's many more. So, folks, the last thing I want to say to you is this. I said a lot of thanks when I first came in, but I believe I left one thanks out, and the thanks I want to give is to you all. Folks, we live in a constitutional republic, despite what some of these folks on the other side say about a democracy. This is a constitutional republic. And inside that constitutional republic, the most important element is not liberty, freedom, or our rights. The most important element inside a constitutional republic is responsibility. We all have a responsibility to be politically aware and politically active. That's what you guys are doing by being here tonight. I thank you very much. If we continue that awareness and continue that action, we can turn this state around and we can turn this nation around. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.